Welcome, tourist. My name is Victoria Shanlourdes as Sunodan, and I am your virtual tour guide for today. I am so excited to be with you as we virtually visit and get to know one of UNESCO's World Heritage Site through this presentation. Are you excited to know what our heritage site will be for today? Well, I got you. Our heritage site is the wonderful historic center of St. Petersburg and related group of monuments in St. Petersburg, Russia. Now, let's learn more about our destination. The unique urban landscape of the port and capital city of St. Petersburg, rising out of the Neva estuary where it meets the Gulf of Finland, was the greatest urban creation of the 18th century and is also called the Venice of the North due to its numerous canals and more than 400 bridges. Now, let's talk about the history of St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg was built at the beginning of the 18th century in an astonishingly short period of time. According to an orderly plan based on many of Peter the Great's own ideas, the city was constructed under difficult conditions on lowlands and protected from floodwaters, and in the face of severe shortages of materials and workers. Within the first decades of its history, St. Petersburg became a grandiose agglomeration consisting of the historical city core surrounded by ceremonial country residences, an advanced fortification system, estates and dachas, settlements, and small towns linked by radial routes. This Russian European city, surrounded by suburban ensembles, became a sociocultural phenomenon with an incomparable historic urban landscape characterized by an absolute hierarchy of structures. A network of canals, streets, and quays was built gradually, beginning in the reign of Peter the Great. The main feature and attraction of St. Petersburg's historical center is characterized by a perfect harmony of architecture and waterscapes. The full flowing Neva bequeathed the city with an exceptional spatial scale and wealth of spectacle. It became its main square and chief thoroughfare. The Neva water spaces were natural extensions of the system of city squares. The regularly spaced network of streets superimposed on this natural background endowed the city with an artistic contrast and perceptual richness. The city fabric itself is richly woven through wood ensembles. These assemblages, linking one to another, create a complex multi layered system where not one element exists alone or is isolated from its environment. The overarching value of all the components in the system stems from their incorporation into a harmonious whole. It is precisely because of this that St. Petersburg undoubtedly remains the only grand project in the history of urban planning to preserve its logical integrity despite rapid changes in architectural styles. In modern times, the city bore witness and participated in the majestic and tragic events of the 1917 February and October revolutions, and the heroic blockade of 1941 to 1944, in which some million human lives were lost. Having survived the unprecedented trials of the 20th century, the city continues to be a symbol and base of Russian culture for new times and one of its centers of science, culture, and education, tied eternally to the personalities and creative works of outstanding universal value. Fun fact: St. Petersburg won four criterion in the World Heritage Site criteria for selection, and these are the reasons why. For the first criterion, in the field of urban design, St. Petersburg represents a unique artistic achievement in the ambition of the program, the coherency of the plan, and the speed of execution. From 1703 to 1725, Peter the Great lifted from a landscape of marshes, peat bogs, and rocks, architectural styles in stone and marble for a capital, St. Petersburg, which he wished to be the most beautiful city in all of Europe. For Criterion 2, the ensembles designed in St. Petersburg and the surrounding area exerted great influence on the development of architecture and monumental arts in Russia and Finland in the 18th and 19th centuries. The urban model of St. Petersburg, which was completed under Catherine II, Alexander I, and Nicholas I, was used during the reconstruction of Moscow following the fire of 1812 and for new cities such as Odessa or Sebastopol in the southern part of the empire. For Criterion 4, the nominated cultural property links outstanding examples of Baroque imperial residences with the architectural ensemble of St. Petersburg, which is the Baroque and neoclassical capital par excellence. The palaces of Peter Herf and Tsar's Selo, which were restored following destruction during the Second World War, are some significant constructions. For the last criteria, criterion 6, St. Petersburg was twice directly and tangibly associated with events of universal significance. From 1703 to 1725, the construction of St. Petersburg symbolizes the opening of Russia to the Western world and the emergence of the Empire of the Tsars on the international scene. Now, for its integrity, the St. Petersburg metropolitan area as a whole and its historic center in particular have preserved their integrity. This has to do with the fact that the development of the historical center practically ceased in 1913, and in 1918 the capital was moved to Moscow. Its integrity is ensured through the preservation of its planned layout, silhouette, and opportunities for an unobstructed view. But high buildings and inappropriate development around the property have been an issue. The property also suffers from the impacts of traffic, air pollution, and relative humidity. For its authenticity, the site has preserved the authenticity of its chief components. The initial city layout and a large portion of the original structures in St. Petersburg's historic center are testament to its outstanding universal value. The high quality and restoration and reconstruction efforts are part of a strategy to preserve the integrity of the cultural landscape of the entire metropolitan area. Each year, funding is appropriated for major repair and restoration work on historical and cultural monuments for the purposes of ensuring the appropriate protection both of property components and their integrated value as the historic urban landscape, the legal protection status, the system of protection zones, and the land use regimes are being improved. All right, and that's it for our tour in the historic center of St. Petersburg and related group of monuments. Now, let's have a quick recap. The historic center of St. Petersburg and related groups of monuments is a World Heritage Site that is also called the Venice of the North. It is located in St. Petersburg, Russia, and was the greatest urban creation of the 18th century. Here are some pictures and videos of our beautiful historic center of St. Petersburg and related group of monuments. So that's the end of our virtual tour. Did you enjoy our tour today? Well, I hope you did. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, I'm Victoria Sunodan, your tour guide for today. See you on our next tour. Goodbye.